Shalom Aleichem, Assalamu Alaikum, Eirini Mazisu, Pax Vobiscum, peace be unto you. Welcome back. In this video, Judges chapter 21. There are 25 verses, beginning in verse 10. We're actually going all the way down to verse 10. Well, not even the right chapter. So this is the story of, or the account where the children of Benjamin have no wives. There's not enough women for them to continue their tribe. So in verse 10, it says here, strongest. So they're sending 12,000 men of their strongest, or of the strongest men, versus the valiantest, which could mean brave, courageous. So here it says Chayil, which could mean army, wealth, virtue, valor, strength. So many connotations with that word Chayil. And there's a big difference also in this verse. It says here, these are the instructions of those being sent to attack Benjamin. Go and smite the inhabitants of Jabesh Gilead with the edge of the sword. In the Masoretic, it actually adds, this is the big difference, to essentially destroy or end. I'm just going to use a synonym for that term. They're going to end the women and the children. There's no mention of that in the Septuagint. Instead, there's an actual specific command when it comes to the women, not so much the children. So in verse 11, we see an omission, and it's an important one as well. The virgins you shall save alive. And they did so. It's one thing to say it, but it's another thing altogether to actually complete the command, to abide by the words. And here the implication is that they're going to destroy or end every woman that has lain by man. So they even put bed, so sleep with, which is very close to our modern vernacular, to bed, to sleep with somebody else. And in verse 13, it says here that Israel invited them, the children of Benjamin, to brackets, so they inserted that word, to peace. So that's the purpose, the rationale for inviting them to make peace, essentially. In the Masoretic, the call was made. So they spoke to the children of Benjamin. Why? To call peaceably to them. So to literally call in a peaceful manner. Or perhaps, let's just give the benefit of the doubt to the Masoretic, to call peace unto them. You know, like peace be unto you, as I say in almost every video. They're calling peace unto them. But because the translator decided to translate it as peaceably, this word is now associated with the verb. It's an adverb describing how they're calling in a peaceful manner, which doesn't really make too much sense. You can call peaceably, but what does that do? What purpose does that serve, really? Okay, in verse 14, there's a big difference. It says here, and they were content. So the question is this speaking of the daughters of Jabesh? Were they the ones content? Or was it the sons of Benjamin? Because you'll see in the following verses that how can they be content? Because there seems to be a lack of women or wives specifically, that still that still remain. I keep finding that funny where I'm dressed like this, and then you hear the little digital watch, and it's so anachronistic. But then again, you do see the microphone, and they didn't have that. They didn't have these. They didn't have this microphone back in the ancient times. Okay, verse 14. And so what does it say in the Masoretic? It doesn't say that they were content, whether it's the daughters of Jabesh Gilead or Jabesh Gilead or the sons of Benjamin or Benjamin. It says that yet so they, meaning the wives, the women, sufficed them not. Because you can't take this, to have it the reverse, where it is talking of the women, from the women's perspective perhaps, they, being the men, did not suffice the women. It doesn't make sense. How could they not? Because there's more men than women. So it has to be the other way around. The women did not suffice the men, which actually does make sense, but that's not what is being said in the Septuagint anyway. It's saying that they were not, and they were content. So they were content. So I'm leaning towards this being applicable to the daughters of Jabesh Gilead. So could this be a contradiction in the scriptures? Because a lot of people who want to refute the scriptures say the Bible contradicts itself. So let's look at this really closely. Let's just look at this once again. Benjamin came again at that time to Israel. They gave them wives. Israel did to Benjamin. The tribe of Benjamin, they had saved alive of the women of Jabesh Gilead. And yet so they, the wives, the women, sufficed them not. So is that a contradiction? I wouldn't say that it is, but it can be, depending on how this word is translated. Are we translating this as being sufficient in terms of numbers, meeting the need, or are we talking about this in terms of contentment? So to find, okay, so it is to be found. Actually found, befall, doesn't seem to sufficient, right? I don't find, no pun intended, any allusion or relation to emotions. Whereas the Septuagint seems to be alluding to the emotional response of the Benjamites, saying that they were happy. It seems like a comical, I don't know if comical, it's kind of lighthearted to say, oh, okay, they were content, that's good. But I think this is referring to the women, that they were content, that they're not, single anymore, perhaps, that they have a mate. Verse 22, we have a significant difference in that verse. It says here, you transgressed. So they're talking about, referring to those who did not give. Okay, let me just make sure I'm talking about the correct thing. They charged the children of Benjamin, lie in wait in the vineyards. You'll see the daughters dancing, the daughters of Shelah or Shalom or Shiloh, perhaps. And then just capture a wife, just take her. You see her, just take her. Like it's a bird. Like she's a bird. And it will come to pass when their fathers or their brethren come to dispute with us. So the men of Shelah or Shiloh, we will say to them, grant them freely to us. Just let us take them, these daughters of yours. For we, the Benjamites, or perhaps Israel, we have not taken every man his wife in the battle, so it is the Benjamites. We did not take our wives. Basically, we are single. Because you did not give to them Jabesh Gilead, you did not give to them according to the occasion. So I think this is referring to the fact that they did not bring anybody to the battle. Referring to the previous verse. Where is that? They're asking the question. Here, there was not a man from the inhabitants of Jabesh Gilead that did not go up to Adonai to Mizpeh. However, what does that have to do with Shilah? They brought them to Shilah. Okay, 400 young virgins. So these 400 young virgins in the verse 12 seem to be a different group from the ones mentioned in verse 22. The ones who are dancing. The daughters of the inhabitants of Shilah. So it is a little confusing, but I don't think it is, because we have to make the distinction between the daughters of Jabesh Gilead. If I'm not mistaken, that's the name. Yeah, Jabesh Gilead. And then a distinction between the daughters of Shilah, of the men of Shilah, or Salam, or Shiloh. Okay, so in verse 22, so the point is, what they're saying to them is, we're taking them because you did not give to them, these men, according to the occasion. You transgressed. So they're saying you sinned. In the Masoretic, it doesn't say that. It says you should be guilty. So they did not sin, but here they did, in fact, sin. So they're justifying their actions. Excuse me. Okay, and actually that's it for this chapter and for this book. So we're finished the book of Judges. It's been an interesting journey to reveal the truth of the scriptures. But I have to put an asterisk on everything I've done from Genesis up to now, up to the end of Judges. And it's this. In my Bible, or the Brenton Septuagint, the English translation of the Greek Septuagint, there's actually footnotes in my Bible that I did not go over. So I might have to not redo everything, but that would have to be its own addendum, probably after I'm finished everything from Genesis to Malachi. So that's noteworthy. Meaning there are probably some things I did not catch at first read. But nevertheless, we've noticed really big differences, very significant and massive differences, maybe not massive, but at least big differences between the Masoretic and the Septuagint for this book of Judges. And what I hope to do before we move on to the book of Ruth is that I will do a summary video similar to what was done for Joshua, where I did a shorter, well, not maybe short, but I summarized over many hours of content, basically distilled it down to a more digestible time frame. So instead of watching all the videos from Joshua chapter 1, or in this case Judges chapter 1 to Judges chapter 21, so watching all 21 videos, you could simply watch the summary videos, which would save you a lot of time, and basically I would just present to you the biggest differences, those that really, not that the other ones don't matter, but the ones that are really earth-shaking and kind of justify, maybe not justify, but that would show just how relevant this work is, to compare and contrast every chapter and every verse and every word from these two translations. Okay, so having said that, that's all I have for you today, for this video anyway. So do look forward to the summary video where I outline the biggest differences between the Septuagint and the Masoretic text for the book of Judges. So thank you once again for your time, and until next time, we'll do that video, and I bid you all Shalom Aleichem, Assalamu Alaikum, Irini Mazisu, Pax Vobiscum, and peace be unto you. Maranatha.